he brings a lot of eyeballs to the division, and also he elevates everything.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reality of a Henry Cejudo. That guy is a fucking Wolverine.
My name is Triple C, Olympic champion, flyweight champion of the world, and now bantamweight champion of the world. I am the greatest.
You all know him as the former two-weight world champion, the king of cringe, Triple C.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck?
The guy who makes them bend the knee. But for this video, we're gonna take a closer look at Henry Cejudo's lifestyle, because believe it or not, it's not what you think. Henry Cejudo, born in 1987, had a challenging upbringing. His parents, Jorge and Nelly Cejudo, immigrated from Mexico to the United States to provide their family with a better life. They settled in South Central LA, where gang violence and drug problems were rampant. Despite the challenges, Henry was determined to make a name for himself. His father had issues with alcohol and drugs, and after a particularly nasty split from his mother, Cejudo's childhood was spent moving around the LA area. Things eventually got so bad with his father that he threatened to kill the entire family, causing Henry's mother and her kids to flee to New Mexico before he was eventually deported when his son was just 6 years old. By the time Henry was 20, his father had died in Mexico. Henry was very close to his older brother Angel, who was instrumental in introducing him to wrestling. Angel was a wrestler himself, and he recognized Henry's potential. He coached and mentored him, providing him with the guidance he needed to succeed. Henry would later say that Angel was the superior wrestler of the two, and based on his record, he might be right. Thanks to his brother's tutelage, Henry became a standout wrestler at Maryvale High School in Phoenix, Arizona, winning the state championship 4 times, just like his brother Angel had done. Cejudo won 2 in Arizona before transferring to Colorado Springs and winning 2 more there. In 2006, Henry started training full-time in the Team US Training Center in Colorado, eventually representing the US in the Olympics, becoming the youngest American to ever win a gold medal in wrestling at 21. His transition to MMA that followed didn't immediately scream championship success. We all knew that Henry was good, sure, but there were issues of discipline and finding the right weight class. For a guy who had won Olympic gold, missing weight on 2 occasions prior to joining the UFC seemed to suggest that something was wrong. So Cejudo debuted as a bantamweight first, but eventually, when his health and nutrition was in the right place, he dropped down to flyweight and eventually beat the greatest fighter in the sport, Demetrius Johnson. But look, winning fights and beating goats is all well and good, but it was Henry's self-proclaimed king of cringe persona that truly catapulted him into the spotlight. The king of cringe gimmick, which Cejudo adopted in 2019, was a departure from his previous persona as the humble Olympic gold medalist. It involved outlandish costumes, over-the-top trash talk, and an almost cartoonish persona. At first, many fans and fellow fighters dismissed it as a desperate attempt to stay relevant in a sport that demands constant attention. But as Cejudo continued to rack up wins and defend his titles, the gimmick began to take on a life of its own. Cejudo's king of cringe persona was based on his belief that he was the best fighter in the world and that he deserved to be recognized as such. He went to great lengths to make sure that his opponents and the media knew it. He would wear elaborate costumes to press conferences and even brought a crown to one fight. You remember when he beat up that toy snake in front of TJ Dillashaw? Yeah, that kind of stuff. Cejudo's trash talk was also a key component of his king of cringe persona. He would use outrageous insults and nicknames to get under his opponent's skin. But things really took off for Cejudo when he won his 2nd UFC belt, and thus the Triple C moniker was born. Triple C stood for Champ, 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 a nod to the fact that he had won Olympic gold as well as UFC gold in 2 different weight classes. Despite the ridicule and criticism that Cejudo received for his king of cringe persona, he continued to embrace it. He believed that it set him apart from other fighters and made him more memorable to fans. It was a calculated risk, but it paid off. Cejudo's antics generated buzz and drew attention to his fights. And as time has gone on, people have started to really respect this dude on a level that allows them to see beyond his gimmick. Say what you want about his his means of getting attention, but it was undeniably effective. He became one of the most talked about fighters in the UFC, and his fights generated more interest and attention than ever before. And after deciding to retire in 2020 at the peak of his powers so he could start a family, Henry found a new lease on life as a coach and analyst. The former UFC flyweight and bantamweight champion has taken to his official YouTube channel to share his knowledge and expertise with the world, and his videos have garnered a large following. Cejudo's YouTube channel features a variety of content, from breakdowns of his own fights to analysis of current UFC events. He also shares tips and tricks for aspiring fighters and showcases his coaching abilities by working with up-and-coming fighters. As a coach, Cejudo has quickly gained acclaim for his ability to analyze and improve his fighters' techniques. He has worked with some of the top fighters in the sport, including John Jones, Davison Figueiredo, and even his old opponent Demetrius Johnson. Cejudo's coaching style is a reflection of his own fighting style, technical and strategic. He emphasizes the importance of mental toughness and physical conditioning, and he uses his own experiences as a fighter to help his students develop their own unique styles and approaches. And when you're an Olympic gold medalist in wrestling, that's a pedigree that isn't normal in MMA. But above all other things, Henry has become known as one of the all-time great game planners in MMA history. Cejudo's success as a coach and analyst can be attributed to his unique perspective as a fighter. Off the mats, Henry is a family man. He grew up in a Mexican-American family and speaks often about the importance of family values. Henry has also recently become a father with a young daughter he named America, after his love of the United States. In addition to being a father and a family man, Henry is also a philanthropist. He has used his platform as a UFC fighter to give back to the community, especially to the youth in impoverished areas. But that's not all. Henry is also an accomplished businessman. He has aspirations of eventually getting into real estate. Perhaps he can link up with the former UFC star Ragin' Al Iaquinta. Either way, he's definitely proving himself to be a jack of all trades. He's not just a fighter, but a coach, analyst, and entertainer. He has embraced his new role and has found a way to stay relevant and influential in the sport, even after his first retirement from professional fighting. In fact, despite being out for 3 years, is it fair to say that Cejudo is more relevant than ever? Well, that will be put to the test when he makes his return to action at UFC 288. And while the numbers have been pretty good so far, we might be surprised to see just how famous Cejudo has become during his time away. Cejudo's departure from the sport was shocking, but now he's back with a vengeance, eager to reclaim what he believes is rightfully his. The rivalry between Sterling and Cejudo is already heating up, with both fighters trading barbs on social media.
But you know what? Just pull the gloves off. And I will literally, I promise you, bro, I'm going to take your ass out, B. And I'm going to take your ass out in the East Coast in front of all your people. I promise you that.
Sterling has been vocal about his dislike for Cejudo's Triple C persona and has called him out on several occasions. Cejudo, on the other hand, is relishing the chance to shut Sterling up and add another championship belt to his already impressive resume. To be a two-weight world champion is one thing, but to be a two-time bantamweight champion who has already won gold at flyweight? Yeah, you're getting into Randy Couture territory there. Cejudo's last fight in the octagon was against Dominic Cruz in May 2020, where he successfully defended his bantamweight title before shocking the MMA world by announcing his retirement from the sport. Will ring rust be an issue? Well, as we said, Cejudo has been very active in the fight game. And just as we saw with John Jones, who returned after 3 years out, some fighters are just built differently. Some just don't have the same level of susceptibility to the decline that may come from inactivity. Throughout his MMA career, Cejudo has amassed a record of 16 wins and only 2 losses, with notable victories over top contenders such as Demetrius Johnson, TJ Dillashaw, and Marlon Moraes. Sterling is an undeniably great fighter, but despite his recent success, he has been unable to win over the fans, with many MMA enthusiasts criticizing him for that whole Peter Yan mess and, to a lesser degree, his fighting style and personality. This fight is not just about Cejudo reclaiming the bantamweight title that he never lost. It's also an opportunity for him to prove his critics wrong and showcase his skills as a potential GOAT candidate. It's a chance for him to silence Sterling and all the naysayers who doubt his abilities. Regardless of the outcome, one thing is for sure: this fight will be one for the ages. The anticipation is palpable, and the MMA world is eagerly waiting to see what unfolds inside the octagon. Cejudo's return has been long awaited, and the fans can't wait to see him in action once again. As the days draw nearer to UFC 288, the hype surrounding this fight is only going to grow, and it's safe to say that the MMA world will be watching with bated breath. Will Cejudo reclaim the bantamweight title that he still has a claim to, or will Sterling defend it successfully and finally win over the fans? Only time will tell, but one thing is for certain, this is a fight that nobody wants to miss. Henry is already a legend in the world of combat sports. His legacy is one of perseverance, hard work, and determination. He is an inspiration to anyone who has ever faced adversity and overcome it, and he will always be remembered as one of the greatest wrestlers and MMA fighters of all time. Did you enjoy this video? If you did, kindly like and subscribe to our channel so we can bring you more intriguing UFC videos like this. Until next time, do take care and do not forget to stay tuned for more great content.